Welcome to the next episode of It's Gonna Be Okay. I have Cory Jacob tonight as my guest.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're friends, right?
Yeah, we're friends.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. I was here to tell you that I'm your friend, actually. We were in a gray area, so now we know. And
no, okay,
see you later.
Now this has been the initiation of the friendship. You got to see like all my wonderful toys and my setup, and
yeah, you ripped off a tag on one of your
well, I mean, this one, you know, he's brand new, but he was initiated today. I bring him out to socialize, you know, so that we have something to talk about when I go home.
Nice. Yeah. Recap the day. I get it. It's just like having a significant other's open relationship.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not that open. No, we're all here together. I brought you here, Cory, because I know that we've spoken about your past. Obviously, you talk about suicide and
you brought me
like
here because I'm
and
messed up and damaged.
No, that's not why. I don't think you're messed
it.
up and damaged at all. I don't think so at all. Cory is a stand-up comedian and an actor.
Yeah.
And did you have anything else you wanted to tell the audience?
Well, I would say that. So what's the title of your podcast?
Oh, It's Gonna Be Okay.
It's Gonna Be Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually growing up, I wanted to be an actor, like performer. I kind of wanted to be a Mickey Mouse Club guy. It's kind of like I saw it, I'm like, I can do that. But I was 19 when my brother took his life. And then after that happened, I was like, you know what? Life's so short. I'm going to live my dreams. I'm going to move to California from Wisconsin and pursue acting and comedy. Like, you only get one life, live it up, do what you can.
Yeah. Well,
So if my brother didn't kill himself, I probably wouldn't be here. Thanks, Nick. God. Thanks for killing yourself.
Oh my God. If my brother didn't kill himself, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I've heard something similar from other people I've interviewed where they say that it takes a traumatic event as a catalyst, almost, to kind of like edge you over to doing something that you wouldn't have normally done. It's, I'm not saying that it's unfortunate, but it's also fortunate in a way, where
silver lining.
Yeah. Every silver lining in every cloud.
I mean, I think everybody wants their death to inspire people, right?
Well, okay. Look, yes and no. I wouldn't want my death to inspire somebody else to kill themselves, like that.
Not at all. No.
But I feel like sometimes that's kind of like where some people go. They're like, I mean, if you take it to a really dark place, there are people who look at like really tragic moments and they think, yeah, I could do that too for me. Like, I mean,
yeah, of course.
I feel like it's almost like when you see like you see serial killer documentaries. I'm not like into it, but I always read about how people build up that kind of like cult fan base. And that had me thinking for a while, if Charles Manson was in our era, he would have a podcast too.
Oh yeah, he'd have a huge following.
He'd try to legitimize. I don't know why I was thinking about that on the way over here.
Charlie's Friend Zone or something.
Yeah, yes.
Sure.
Charlie's Friend Zone, or like what did he have? He had like a farm or a cowboy
commune,
ranch.
like kind of like a commune.
Yeah, he had like I mean it's not any different than like Scientology, Dianetics to that extent. But this isn't what this is about. This is not a cult following.
Not yet. It's gonna be the cult of Carissa. Everyone's gonna follow her and heal themselves. Hearing others' pain.
I at least want people to take some sort of I don't know, initiative to not feel so
like
awkward.
Alone. Yeah, you're not alone. Lots of people are going going through stuff, and everything can get better at any second.
It everything is always in flux, and I think there's like this constant need to pressure people to be happy all the time. that I think is what makes people depressed. You know, when you're not like allowed to be yourself, and then just kind of like, oh, I need time alone, or oh, I need to vent, or oh, I need this space. You know, it's just, there's always kind of like a people don't allow that to happen until a real catastrophe happens, and then they always say, well, what led up to that moment? You know?
Yeah, it hits them too hard if you let it build up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely healthy to spend time alone and be alone with your thoughts, dark or not. Like if you're going through a dark phase, to just really think about why that's happening, what actions you've done, and just how you can be better. And you know, that without the lows, there aren't the highs.
It's kind of like right now with the summer, you know, without the summer, there's not going to be precipitation, and you can't enjoy the cold.
Yeah, seasons of emotion.
Seasons of emotion. I'm tougher than that. I don't have seasonal depression. I have all year depression.
Oh, that's nice. That's, at least you know what's going to happen. Yeah.
Every day, all day.
I used to get seasonal depression really bad. Living in Wisconsin, the winters are like negative 30, 40 with the wind chill, and I would get so depressed every winter. And Wisconsin is a huge drinking state. Mm-hmm. Like if you look up the top 20.
Is it for that reason alone? It might be.
Not for that reason alone, but it's definitely part of it. In the winter, people just stay in their house and get drunk, or like walk to the bar and get drunk. But a lot of drinking in Wisconsin all the time. But
yeah, I was talking to somebody that went to Seattle about a week ago or something like that, and she said that she legitimately saw a guy do a line of cocaine on the street and then have an OD afterwards, like immediately after they started ODing on the floor. And then she was like, I gotta get out of here. And I was like, holy crap. I said, seeing that alone would make you want to kill yourself. You know what I mean? I think because we know that Seattle is like a suicide capital of the world.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow, it's like the Mecca if you want to commit suicide.
Yeah, pretty much.
There, yeah.
People go there to traverse to just to kill themselves, you know.
Okay.
Besides, probably, I think,
Golden Gate Bridge, I would assume.
No, not the goal. I think maybe that might be third.
I think a lot of people that want to kill themselves don't want to go anywhere. They just
want
to kill themselves where they are. Yeah,
they do it where they
are.
Like
plan a trip like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I killed myself over here?
Unless you had money, then you would go to perform euthanasia it's a Nordic city, a Nordic country. I'm trying to think. It's a Dutch.
Yeah, that's like when you have so much money, you're like, you know what, someone else kill me.
Yeah. I'll have somebody else do it for me. We can plan it. It can be beautiful.
Take all the money. I don't care about my family. They don't love me. That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
Take my money.
Exactly. But yeah. So you talk about your brother on stage. Very direct.
Yeah, I talk. I mean, depending on how long of a set I do, I normally, if I do like a 10-minute set, I'll do 3-4 minutes usually on him. If I do like 20 minutes, I'll do like maybe 5-7. Mm-hmm. But I have a lot of material about my brother taking his life because it's shaped me a lot as a person. And also I think people need to talk about mental health issues and get more comfortable accepting death.
Yeah.
And I've had people get mad at me too for like talking about death, and you know, sometimes once in a while it totally bombs.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it crushes though. I got to get better like with adjusting it to the temperature of the room, because if some people don't want to talk about it or aren't comfortable, you know, you can ease into it in different ways. You don't just have to hit them over the head like with being so aggressive about it.
Yeah, I've spoken about my attempted suicide, my failed ones at least, and people get, you know, kind of disappointed that I'm talking about it, and I'm like, would you want me to succeed? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that why you're upset? Like, I don't understand why.
I'll try right now.
Just
this little mic cord right here.
Yeah, and it's just so weird the way we see. You know, I think it kind of goes back to that idea that we have to be happy being alive, but it's like some people didn't choose to be on this planet. You know, some people weren't raised in that environment where, you know, your parents loved you or something like that. Like there was always a condition to why you existed. You know, it was never like, oh yeah, this baby, we planned it. You know, we want her to be here.
This really sad sperm was the, you know, like the quickest.
Yeah.
The quickest sperm still didn't want to be here. The whole batch, nobody wanted to be here.
Yeah, but I don't. It just blows my mind when people are upset, as if as if we kind of walk around, you know, with or people kind of walk around with like blinders on without realizing, yeah, some people are fucking miserable in life just because you aren't, motherfucker, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny when people say mentally ill. Like, I would say I've been mentally ill, but I like to think of it as not that I'm sick, that like ill meaning good, like I'm ill.
Oh, like you the illest?
I
Like
think
like a
differently.
gangster?
I think differently. I think it's good to think differently. And, you know, you just talking about how everybody thinks we have to be happy and all that. I mean, most people just think the same thoughts as other people and don't think for themselves. And I think that's more of a mental illness than digging through your own personal stuff and your personal demons. And,
right.
You know.
I think the illness is other people's perception.
Yeah,
it's other people's perception because they're not taking into account that not everybody thinks alike.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's okay.
Yeah,
that's totally,
exactly.
That's what makes the world a great place.
Yeah, but you know,
the people who have made the world had the most impact are the people who have thought differently and taken chances in doing that.
Exactly, but you know, we live in I think all these artists from the 50s had that commentary about mass production. They want humans to be mass produced too, especially the way we think. They want our thoughts to be mass produced.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's,
you know, we're like, if you're not falling in line, you know, you gotta Pink Floyd made a song about it, you know. All of you are all just a brick in the wall. That's essentially what they want us to do. They want us to fall in line.
Of course.
You know, and in not falling in line, especially when it comes to happiness and the way we regulate our emotions, that deviates from the norm. And anything that deviates is considered an illness.
Yeah.
You know, but I have a different approach to what illness is. It's usually something that causes you distress. You know, if you feel debilitated by it, those are the confines of what a real illness is something.
I think that's a good, simple definition.
Yeah.
And then also you can catch yourself easily of just like, hey, you know, you're not feeling so good.
Yeah.
Change it somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Eat better food. Go exercise.
Exactly.
Read a book.
Yeah, and some people they don't know this. They're like, oh yeah, that, and this was what makes talking about mental health so incredibly challenging, is because people are so quick to give that label, you know, if something's different. Oh yeah, that person's mentally ill, or yeah, that person's fucking crazy, or yeah, like they're not one and the same thing. They're completely different.
Yeah, and talking about it takes away the power of it too. Of like, it doesn't constrict you if you're talking about it. You're aware of it and releasing the pressure.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
We solved it.
No, we're not coming up with cures. We're just making everybody feel good about it. So I know how has your besides the fact that your brother was a catalyst in you coming out here to Los Angeles to pursue your dreams, when he was alive, was there, you know, like a camaraderie that, you know, because you said, or you've had dreams of just even being an actor in general. That was before he killed himself, or?
Yeah, I mean, just growing up, I was the middle child, so I was ignored. So a lot of times I would do impressions of like SNL characters, or like imitate funny people I saw, like relatives, anybody interesting. I would kind of just perform for my family all the time to get attention, to the point of being annoying. So it was always something that, you know, I thought about doing, but you know how it is. You get stuck in, like, my dad had a home improvement business, roofing and siding, and it was and his dad did it. So it's kind of like, you know, you're expected to do certain things, or I worked for him for a while, and it's like, you know, you go down a path and you're like, oh, this is the easy path, or this is what's expected. And then you're like, but I really don't want to do that. I don't want to do that for 30 or 40 years, you know? So it's always been in my mind of the possibility of doing it. Yeah, but I would say that Nick taking his life, my older brother, we were super close. He was only 15 months older than me. So so when he took his life, passed away, killed himself, whatever you want to say, it definitely shocked me big time. And a lot of processing, and I probably still haven't processed it.
How long that happened?
When I was 19. It was in March 8th, 2000.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I was 19. He was 20. Yeah, so I didn't know what I was doing. I was just barely graduated high school.
Yeah.
I was,
What did you want to do back then?
Actually, I wanted to be a stockbroker. I was in a mentorship program in high school where like you pick someone from the local community. I wanted to be a stockbroker, so I got hooked up with a stockbroker. I'm just fascinated by numbers.
Yeah.
And just research as well. So it's cool to like research companies and figure out numbers. And so yeah, I wanted to be a stockbroker. And then I was super into basketball. So I played a lot of basketball growing up. Played like AAU, high school, and then I played junior college, and basically played basketball and drank. And then my brother killed himself, and then I dropped out of college, and a couple of years of depression. And
He was older than you?
yeah, he was older.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did you guys like? I mean, leading up to that point when he did take his life, was there anything that like gave you kind of like an inkling or something that would, kind of were there signs
that he might kill himself?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. He was.
Was he depressed? Did he go?
Yeah,
to
I mean,
to therapy.
We grew up in a small town of like 3,000 people, and my family's pretty athletic, so we played sports, but we hung out with like mostly the bad kids or like the skater kids.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely like dabbled in drugs, and my brother ran away when he was 15 and joined a gang. And
there are gangs in Wisconsin.
Yeah, there's gangs.
I'm sorry.
There's gangs in Wisconsin.
I was surprised. Yeah,
there's a lot of gangs big gangs in Chicago, and like
okay. Okay, I believe that. Yeah.
Recruited.
I know that one. Yeah. So they took you guys in, and okay.
Well, him specifically, and he ran away from home for a couple years and was like selling coke, and like got caught like breaking into cars, went to jail, and he got in with the wrong crowd, and basically. Like when he was in jail, I was one of the only people he'd talk to when he was in jail. Like he wouldn't talk to my parents. My younger brother is 4 years younger than me, so like 3-4 years younger. So he wouldn't talk to him about stuff because he was too young. So he would like tell me everything that he was doing. I mean, he took me to a party, like this gangster party, and I was 16. And the guy just had coolers of beer, and he's like, just drink whatever you want. And they were talking about like planning a robbery.
Oh my gosh.
Like stealing cars, and I was just sitting there like, oh yeah, cool. I was just like, I was like the bad jock, like who drank and smoked, but like, I wasn't gonna go that far into it.
You felt so out of place.
I felt out of place for sure, but I was just like, wow, this is like a whole world that I'm not aware of, and like Nick would just look at me like my brother, like just like just
be cool.
Just be cool. Like you see and you hear, but like you don't say.
Don't take it in. Don't
you
pay
don't say
attention.
nothing.
Yeah.
Like I knew what was going on, and like I later sold drugs for him. But yeah, it's like, this is what's going on. But he definitely realized that he made a lot of like life mistakes. And yeah, when he was in jail, he said, a lot of my friends that I thought were my friends were just like gang members that didn't check on me and like weren't there. And he's like, I kind of thought I had this other family, but it turns out they're not really the family I thought they were.
Right.
And like wanted to turn his life around, but then, he violated his probation, something stupid, and he thought he was going to go back to jail. And he like, one of the things or reasons is he said, I'm never going back to jail again. So yeah, he took his life. I mean, there's obviously a lot going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely taught me a lot. I remember a couple weeks before he killed himself, he went down to Milwaukee, to like college parties. And he had some gang tattoos on his hand and on his shoulder, and somebody saw him at this like frat party and like called him out, and he's like, "What's your name?" And he's like, "Nick Licky. My real last name is Licky, and it's like hard to pronounce." And the guy's like, "Well, that's a stupid name, whatever." And he's like, "You don't disrespect my name or my family, or whatever." And they fought about it, and I like kind of teased him. I was like, "So you got in a huge fist fight because somebody made fun of your last name?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, I did." And I was like, "Well, that's kind of silly or whatever." And he was just like, "You don't get it," and I was like, okay. But he definitely was kind of offended that I thought it was silly. He stood up for the family name. I was like, you don't have to fight everybody.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, I get that. I get that lifestyle, because I have family members that are like that. They're like, that's disrespectful. And I'm like, sometimes it's not even worth
Sometimes
fighting
let it go,
over.
yeah.
Like, Yeah, exactly. Let go. That's what you have to learn how to do when it comes to certain things.
But my friend who was there said it was the greatest fist fight he ever saw. They just like beat the shit out of each other.
He's like, you know what? I think maybe we should bet on this one. Did he win though? I mean,
I think it was pretty much a draw. I'm not sure if he won that one.
Oh.
But yeah, I've seen him knock out multiple people, and I've seen my little brother like break people's. I saw him break a guy's jaw, and then another guy that I went to.
So your little brother,
my little brother
was in it too?
We all kind of gravitated towards that group. Like, I don't think like my younger brother was officially in it or whatever, but
yeah, he wasn't gang initiated just yet.
Yeah, we're like, and I wasn't like either. I hung out with gangsters all the time, like for a couple years. But yeah, somebody made fun of my brother like killing himself, and my little brother knocked out like 3 of his teeth.
Wow.
So that was pretty funny. And then growing up in a small town, you see all these people, like
yeah,
you see him. So the next time you saw him, he's like, hey, how's your
and
teeth?
he was whistling, or
yeah, exactly, making fun of him.
He was whistling because what a piece of shit. I would have knocked his ass out too.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, see, that's something I will say for sure is like growing up in a small town. It's kind of like a huge stigma of like, oh, there's the guy whose brother killed himself.
Yeah.
Like I definitely got a lot of those looks.
Yeah.
And like gossip, like you hear about gossip and stuff, and like, oh, they're bad kids. Like something's wrong. Like his brother killed himself, and like these guys are in trouble. And it's just like so close-minded and small. And it's also funny that when people know that you're in trouble or you're a troubled kid and, like getting caught drinking or stealing or whatever it is, robbing or whatever.
Yeah.
Instead of like trying to help and ask what's wrong, they just like judge you and are just like, oh, that kid's bad news.
Right.
It's like, has anybody tried to talk to them?
Yeah, exactly.
Has anyone tried to help them?
Yeah. Yeah. I've experienced that too, but it was on a different level, because I wasn't really a troubled child. Like I actually went to school and I did well and that kind of thing. So what was troubling was that they couldn't process that. Oh, you got all this going for you. Like what the fuck made you want to kill or even attempt to try to take your life? And it's that, it's like why like living up to a standard.
Yeah. Well, I think you've talked about in your stand-up like just a interesting relationship with your mom or like
and then it's
like expectations
unrealistic expectations for me or even for herself and I've brought this up to her too. It's funny too because she'll be like, I'm a winner in life, and then I'll laugh at that. I'm like, no, you're not, bitch.
Yeah. Like my dad asked me like every year or two, he's like, when are you quitting acting? When are you quitting comedy? Like I was on America's Got Talent and they came out here to watch, and like I was a talking toilet who does impressions, and like I got booed by like 3,000 people, and my dad just like sat on the couch next to me after, and he's just like, how much longer are you gonna keep trying to do this acting thing?
Oh my
God. Like every couple of years, how much money you make last year? Like all the time, I was just like, I don't know. One time I made $50,000 for saying I like bacon, like like one day.
Yeah.
Last year I got paid, like $1,000 just to touch a snake. Like,
here's the thing: is that like when I first started doing stand up, too, my mom she's like, "Do you get paid for this?" I'm like, why does it always have to resort to that kind of thing? I mean, no, I'm not getting paid right now, but it does lead up to things, and it's almost like we're the ones that have to prostitute ourselves out, and I'm like, this is not what that is, like this at least feels a little bit more legitimate because I'm doing it on my own volition as opposed to what you wanted me to do. What
did your mom want you to do?
My mom wanted me to be a doctor.
Oh yeah, I heard. You went to medical school,
and that's not.
Yeah, you gotta do what makes you happy. I mean, ultimately, that's. I mean, I could have taken over my dad's business and been very well off, financially, but who cares? I didn't want to do that.
You didn't. It's not. It's just. It's hard. It's almost like when people are like, "Oh, you got to make what you got to do what makes you happy," but then when you're like, "Well, sometimes you didn't grow up with that identity where you're like, well, making me happy would be making my family happy." You know what I mean? But then it doesn't.
Yeah, it's a balance for sure. I've been in like a bunch of sports commercials. And I'm like, I think though, like my dad, like, yeah, of course he loves sitting around with his golf buddies and like seeing me on TV on SportsCenter. And, like I was a spokesman for Golf Now for like 2 years, and I did like 7 commercials, and my dad's huge into golf.
Yeah.
I even have a joke about it. I was like, my dad loves golf. I wish
Yeah,
I wish I was golf.
wish I was golf. Yeah,
and then I always
remember
gets a
that.
big laugh. And but it's true, like, you know, like when it's going well, everybody's like, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. Everything's
Yeah.
amazing." And then when you don't,
And then when it dips,
When
then
you-
people don't want to
yeah.
be there for you.
yeah,
you know?
exactly. And that's
then-
just how it is.
Yeah, and then that's kind of like when you know who your real friends are, the people that want to
My
be there
dad's
for
not
you.
my friend. No.
Well, regardless,
No, he
you know
is.
what I mean. You kind of have to have that relationship though with your kids after they get old.
Yeah, I'm starting
You
to
know?
see his point of view for a while. Like, I have 13-year-old twins.
Yeah.
And I was a single dad of them for 7, 8 years by myself. And I can definitely see, like, being annoyed if my kids, like, chose a career path where there's no guaranteed money and it's, like, extremely hard and competitive. Just like, hey, have you thought about maybe doing something else? Like, as you know, my day job now is a vintage store owner.
Yeah.
Which is great, and it's fun. So that's my day job, and then comedy acting is my passion, what I actually want to do. But
Yeah, everybody has to wear different hats.
Everybody has to wear different hats.
Yeah, when you're a comedian or when you're an actor, you always, like, people don't understand, like, yeah, you got to have multiple jobs, you know, and then that's also what makes you tired and make you not want to waste your time on bullshit. You know, because you're prioritizing that, okay, like, this is what I care about. This is what I'm putting forward, you know, and then, like, all that other shit, like, just social and all that other aspect to it doesn't matter, you know?
yeah, it's what's important to you.
Yeah.
You got to do it, and fuck them if they don't like it. And at a certain point, it's just got to be like, do I want to do what I want, or do I want to try to make other people happy?
Exactly.
And every time I find, whenever I try to make other people happy, I end up
it ends up costing
harboring
you.
resentment
Yeah.
and regretting it myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I know that you've also mentioned something about you getting help for addiction, and
Kind of. Well, I've been to therapy. Like, I never really took therapy for, like, when my brother killed himself.
Okay.
In the Midwest, like, my dad, you don't talk about feelings, you know, like, you know, he doesn't talk about feelings, whatever.
yeah, most men don't talk about their feelings.
Yeah, especially in the Midwest, I think. But yeah, we went to therapy once. Never went to therapy again until 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter was having a lot of issues. So she had a therapist, and then both my kids had a therapist, and then I got a therapist, and then I was in a therapist for my relationship with my partner.
Mm-hmm.
I literally had, like, more therapists than friends. I had like five different therapists. Like, every fucking day was like, time for therapy, and it was fucking insane.
Yeah.
It was so much therapy, and finally now I'm down to.
You're down to 3 therapists now.
No, I'm down to 1. I tried to fire my therapist last month because he's kind of like, well, you kind of, like, went through all the goals that we had.
Oh. So they forced you to graduate, or
No, I was gonna. I tried to, like, I told him, I'm like, hey, I think we're done, because we were just talking about, like, my daughter lives with her mom now.
Yeah.
Like an hour away. So they're separated, my son and my daughter. That was a lot of stuff. Like, it was kind of
tumultuous
situation for sure. And then that led to me and my fiance having a lot of problems. Also being in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 people and 2 cats. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I had a homeless stand-up comedian on my couch. So my fiance, I met her right before the pandemic. She moved into that situation.
No.
So there was a lot going on, but worked through it, and yeah, just a lot of those situations have been resolved. And so my therapist was like, well, like, we've kind of been through this stuff that you're talking about, but we haven't talked about, like, my brother killing himself, like, with my personal therapist. I haven't talked about, like, my dad issues, which I've definitely come to a lot better terms with, of just, like, he can have his opinion, I have mine, and, like, I'm going to live my life. And I think my dad is starting to come around with, like, me having a really cool vintage store now. We're opening up another location next month. I don't know if you knew that.
No,
it's going to be a
that's
vintage
cool.
mall. Yeah, we're renting out booths where people will be selling their
cool.
stuff. And it's going to be called Catnip Coalition, and proceeds of the portion are going to help cats.
Are you doing stand-up there too?
I don't think so.
Not yet. We haven't worked it out yet.
Yeah, I mean, I have a monthly stand-up show at Yes Baby Vintage.
Mm-hmm.
I'll keep doing that. But yeah, so having multiple businesses, like, I think my dad's starting to be like, okay, at least he's good with that if he keeps doing this acting comedy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But
See, you know what I've also always like wondered is why they worry so much. You know, and my mom, and I know my mom was very direct about why she worried about me getting into something that wasn't going to help me financially. And she was like, it's because I don't want to take care of your fucking ass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a nice way of putting it, Mom. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as a dad, I can tell you, like, especially as a single dad who's struggled a ton financially, like, you know, some years I'd have 5 commercials on TV and I'd make like over 100,000 or something. And then the next year, nothing. And I'm like eking it out, like working 5 bar shifts a week.
Yeah.
Can't even pay the babysitter, like, and my bills, you know, like I went into credit card debt, didn't get child support the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I get it. As a dad, it's like when I'm up to 18 years, I got 5 years left. Like, that's enough. Like,
Yeah.
I've done a lot.
Yeah.
So my dad's helped me out a couple times, and hopefully he doesn't have to again financially, you know, because being a parent's not easy.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that being a parent is not easy at all. But I don't think I've ever been in a position where I was like, well, you owe me this. You know what I mean? I'm like, I said that's just you know, that's you being a parent, you know, like I'm not saying you owe it to me, but at the same time, it's like, well, you know, maybe if you thought like 30 years ago about this, like, was it going to be easy for you? Because I know they nail it into my head. They're like, are you going to be able to take care of your kids? And I'm like, I don't have any. Why are you worried about that?
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to be able to take care of my kids. You know?
I'm not worried about it. I know there's no chance I can.
Yeah, I know this. I know. But I understand that, you know, I understand coming. Well, I mean, they lived in a different time where having kids was something that you did or you had to do to prove that you were responsible, you know, and now that's not the case anymore. Like, you can be irresponsible with kids too, you know, like it doesn't mean anything, but I just don't, you know, like, I get it from your perspective. I think
it's definitely changing. Like in Wisconsin, I've had multiple friends who had kids when they were 16, 17, 18. You know, who their kids are 25 now, and it's crazy. And then I drop my kids off in LA at school, and I see dads that are like 55.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you had a kid, or did you have a nurse?
Yeah.
You know, like, like, I'm getting old. I need somebody to take care of me. I'm going to have a kid.
But I mean, at least you can see that, that was a choice at that time. You know, it's a choice on their part, you know. So, I mean, I'm understanding it from like all different kinds of aspects. You know, it's not easy being a father. It's just not easy just living, you know, anymore. It's just not easy living, you know, like, oh God, the price of breathing is going up.
Everything's crazy. I felt pretty proud of myself because on the way here, I got gas, and then I went inside, and I filled up my water bottle for free. I was like, you know what? I just bought $40 of gas.
They gave you water for free?
They didn't give me anything. I went and just filled it up on the fountain machine. Okay. I just marched in there.
You didn't even try to get like one of those free drinks? You're like,
no,
nah.
I didn't ask. I didn't do anything. I was like, you know what? I paid for that gas. Water should be free anyways. I'm going to go fill this guy up.
Was this at Arco?
It was at Arco, yeah. Like an hour north. Yeah, but
yeah. So I mean,
everything is expensive. We're in a recession right now. It's crazy. Yeah, it's $3 for a 16-ounce can of soda. I mean, I'm older than you. I remember when soda was 50 cents for a can of soda.
I kind of remember when soda was like maybe
in a gas station.
Oh no, not
like
a gas station.
1.
No, but I remember like 2 liters being like maybe between $1 and like 75 cents.
Yeah, now they're like $4,
and now
$4.
It's. I mean, I don't even drink soda anymore, but like it doesn't even matter. You know, like I think like, you know, they tell you like, oh, you got to eat healthier. You mean you just don't eat? Just don't eat in general, and then you won't have to worry about eating unhealthy or healthy. But I remember the first time I met you, it was at your vintage store. You gave me like 3 minutes.
Okay. Oh, you just came to watch the show maybe?
No, it was because of your host. We had a mutual friend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh, but yeah, we didn't book you. You just came to the show to support. It was like, hey, do you want to do?
Yeah, I came to the show to support, and he gave me like 3 minutes. And then when I went up and talked about having a mental illness, having schizophrenia, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, I get it. And then I saw your set, and then and then ever since then, I was just like, okay, cool, yeah.
We got to stick together, yeah.
Yeah, we got to stick together outside of the hospital, outside of the mental ward.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever been like hospitalized?
Yes, I have. I went, so when I was 19, I was caddying at like a really nice golf course, Whistling Straits in Wisconsin. It's 10 minutes from where I grew up.
With some what?
Whistling Straits, it's called.
Whistling Straits,
yeah,
what's that?
It's a major golf course. They have like one of the four, there's 4 majors in golf. Like they've had a couple there, like the PGA, the Ryder Cup, etc. But I caddied there at like a very high-end golf course, and then I moved to Florida like 4 months after my brother killed himself. I moved to Florida to caddy, and I was supposed to move with a guy that I'd worked with all summer. I showed up at his house to drive to Florida that morning, and he's like, I can't go. I got a kid here. Like my baby mama says I can't leave, or I'm going to like lose custody or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I just drove to Florida by myself. And I called my mom like after I was like 8 hours away, and I was just like, yeah, I'm just by myself. My buddy I was supposed to go with canceled last minute, and she's like, oh my God, you're by yourself. Like, you can't handle this. Like, this is not a good idea. Like, you're in shock from your brother dying. I'm like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then my brother told me, he said, never try cocaine. Like it was just something he told me. So I moved down to Florida.
But did you do it though?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I moved down to Florida. I met this girl who worked at Applebee's, also turned out to be a stripper.
So she had a day job too. She had a passion and
she had a passion. She wanted to strip for that money. Yeah. So I dated her, moved in with her, and it turns out she had a coke problem, and so I tried coke. I don't even know how many times I did it because like I kind of like went through a psychosis period.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was a ton, but I just had so much mental stuff going on. So I basically I did coke a bit for a couple of weeks, stopped, lost my mind. I literally thought I was like a prophet or something for a while. Mm-hmm. And I went to a church, and I grabbed all my stuff, put all my possessions like outside the church, and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to stay here. And the security came and like, you got to get out of here. You can't be here. And I was like, this is God's property. Like, no, we own this property. And I was like, you can't own land. Only God can own land. Like, it's just a man-made thing. And like, they're just like, you're crazy, buddy.
I've heard people that have gone in the hospital like that.
So they took me to the mental ward, and like 3-4 days later, my dad flew down and picked me up and took me back to Wisconsin. And so I was in the mental hospital for like 4 days, something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then after that,
was that just one time?
Yeah, just one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they give you the initiative socks with the stickies on the
bottom? nice socks. You can walk anywhere in those socks. I love them.
They gave you the socks. Do you still have them?
I don't still have them, but okay. That was 22 years ago. So.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
But they're nice though. I remember the last time my brother went to jail, I was like, I'm gonna wear these socks a little bit. Like my younger brother was like, these are pretty good socks.
So like your mom was like, oh, maybe you're just in shock from when your brother killed himself. That made me think of what you said earlier, where your brother is a gangster. I mean, and then you said how like people would look at your family shamefully because you lived in a small town. Was his death worse? Like the fact that he killed himself, did that bring more shame to your family than the fact that he was a gangster too?
Yeah, I think so for sure. I mean,
so they would rather him just be out slanging drugs instead of actually killing himself?
So this town of 3,000 people, next to it, there's a town of Sheboygan. It's like 60, 70,000. Mm-hmm. So he ran away to Texas, and then he moved back and lived in Sheboygan. So it was kind of like he's out of the orbit of this small town. So like they knew he was getting in trouble, but not exactly what, except for like when he's in the newspaper, like gets caught doing this or whatever. But yeah, I think definitely like when he took his life, everybody was just kind of like, oh, that's something's wrong with that family kind of thing. And then.
So you guys were just labeled like bad by through association.
Yeah, exactly. And then after I had my mental breakdown where I thought I was like a prophet or Jesus or whatever the hell it was, that kind of like tried to be my brother for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like I rapped and I DJ'd and I fucking sold coke for a couple of years.
Okay, out of all that stuff that you said, rapping was the worst. I was like, Cory, you rapped.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
You rap. Was it where? Did you make any good songs or?
Recorded a couple things. I used to I would freestyle like a ton, especially like just being gacked out of my skull on coke. I would just be like, bah, 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 bah. For like hours at a time. And yeah, I definitely like thought I was gonna be Eminem for sure. I was like, just gonna make room for one more white rapper. I'm coming.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
You definitely, instead of the 8 Mile, it was like the 3-inch mile.
Yeah. Yeah, I had turntables in my apartment. I had a spare room. It was about this size, like 10 feet by 12 feet something. And that was like my party. That was one of my party rooms where I'd have like after bars and sell coke and then during the day I would just like play records and rap and
Yeah, but you don't do that anymore, huh?
What's that?
Like you
Sell
don't
coke?
like, no, yeah, exactly.
No,
you don't do that anymore.
I did that for like 2-3
you're
years.
like, I still rap every now.
No, yeah, I mean I will once in a while. Actually, I couldn't listen to rap for over a decade because it just brought back so many bad memories of like.
Oh really? Oh, that's
I got
bad.
jumped like 3-4 times when I was selling drugs.
While you were listening to rap too, or?
Well, basically, I mean, I was hanging out with all these gangster dudes and like just not fitting in, like I didn't want to I'm not a fighter, like I definitely could kick some major ass, but I just don't like hurting people. They don't think it's cool.
You're like, I could kick your ass, but I won't like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't want
funny.
to.
Okay.
I was too sensitive to be a drug dealer, at least a successful one. And then eventually, I just started doing way too much drug,
You're like doing ethical drug dealing? Is that what you mean? Like sensitive for drug dealing?
Oh no, I meant like sensitive, like to be like hanging out with these gangsters all the time, or just like
okay.
we're gonna go do this, and it's like I don't want to go rob somebody. Like I want to like write a poem, like. Yeah, but once I started doing more drugs than selling them, I'm like, this, you got to get out of here. Like this is you're wasting your life. This isn't you.
Yeah.
And then, so I was 22, 23, and I was like, okay, by the time I'm 25, I'm going to move to LA. So I got a job at a summer resort, like being a server, because I heard every actor is either a waiter or bartender, which turns out to be true, basically. So I started working at restaurants. I did that for 2 summers, and I was like, I'm not going to do coke. So for 2 years, I didn't do coke, and I worked in restaurants, getting ready to move out here. And I moved out here when I was 24, went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and the rest is still history in the making.
The rest is still history in the making.
I like to say, maybe you recognize me from commercials or not. I've definitely been in your house. But if you don't recognize me, if I don't make it as an actor, I'm going to blow up a building.
Cool.
You will remember me.
I hope so.
No, that's a bad joke.
No, I don't want you to blow up anybody. I mean, you're like, if I don't make it into your house, I will make it into your house eventually.
Yeah, I'll make it in the newspaper.
Yeah, I'll break into it.
That's just a bad joke. But yeah, so.
So you never went to therapy for the addictions, for the.
I mean, definitely, I've always been, I would say, a heavy, sometimes problematic drinker is how I would describe it. Because in Wisconsin, people just drink all the time, basically.
They drink when they're bored.
Yeah. Every family outing, it's like everybody's going to have 10 drinks, like that's kind of how it is. And that's just normal.
Yeah, if you're not drinking, then there's something wrong with you. You're going to die.
Yeah,
like you have a health problem. That's when you don't drink.
Yeah. My younger brother's been sober now for about 6 years. He graduated all the way up to heroin.
Gosh.
That wasn't fun.
And he lived through that?
Yeah, he lived through it. Now he has his own food truck and he's like super kick butt. But I would say I met my partner right before the pandemic, and I would drink like on the weekends or after bartending shifts. But I had a rule: I would never drink and drive. I would never be drunk in public. That was just a rule because, being a comedian and whatever, it's a small community, so like you don't want to be a jerk or lose control of yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's funny that you say that because I think all the fights I've ever gotten into weren't when I was drunk.
Yeah, during the pandemic, me and my partner drank almost every day for the most part, and maybe half the time getting drunk, and that was the only time we'd fight. We'd fight a lot when we were drinking, and yeah, I like to say we had a game we'd play. Like some people play board games. We'd play get drunk and say the meanest thing you can about each other.
Oh my God, is that roasting or?
Yeah, it was basically like roasting, like with someone who's not a comedian.
Oh no! And did it go well or what?
I mean, I won, but I ended up being single for a little while. I mean, you don't get into a roast battle with a comedian if you're not a comedian. That's just a bad idea.
You're like, I won, but I ended up being single afterwards.
So
I won, but I lost.
I definitely, yeah, we were drunk, and I just said the meanest things I could, and she's just like, you know what, like, I want to take a break from this relationship, etc. So yeah, 2 days later, I stopped drinking, and that's been almost half a year now. I just haven't drank. So for me, I'm not like addicted to anything in particular. I'm addicted to everything. So like me stopping drinking was no problem. It's just like, I'm not going to drink. I do smoke a lot. I definitely have to, that's my next thing I have to quit. But yeah, I used to run marathons. So like I start running and be like, I'm going to run a marathon. Like anything I do, I want to do it to the max. So it doesn't matter what it is. I have an addictive personality.
Oh, I wouldn't necessarily kind of, I've heard people say that, but I have the same thing, but I don't like saying it's an addictive personality. I think more so it's like you're always chasing after something stressful to keep you, because you've lived through trauma.
Yeah, that might be true too.
And you're used to that traumatic experience pushing you. So it's almost like when you're in a hurricane, you know, the calm before the storm, you're like, oh no, must be something wrong if nothing is going on, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
it's
anxiety, definitely. It's anxiety, but like I think it's anxiety that with layers, you know, like we haven't peeled off the layers to try to understand what the trigger is, you know. And I've like sat down, because I sit down a lot and think about these things.
No, that's great.
But you know, there's like things that I will see in my behavior where I'm like, am I doing this because I really enjoy it, or is it because there's something in me that's saying that you need to do this because you get some sort of thrill from it, you know? And at some point when I no longer get that thrill or the initial, you know, like kind of feel of the reaction or whatever it is that I'm looking for.
The euphoria.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dopamine.
Yeah, exactly.
Rush,
then I no longer want to do it, you know? And then that's when I started learning how to substitute behaviors or things where you get the natural dopamine, where you're actually really working for it, you know, like working out.
Yeah.
And
stand up or running.
Yeah. Things that are actually difficult, where you're like, yeah, if I keep doing this, then, you know, you build up to more, you know, healthier habits.
Yeah. Why not do something productive instead of tearing myself down?
Exactly.
Like,
right.
how about that? That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
So it's good. I mean, I think I'll probably go back to drinking at some point. Like, I don't know. But like in a couple drinks here and there thing.
Yeah.
We'll see,
you know what? But there's nothing wrong with you knowing, because I thought that I could do the same thing too with drinking, you know, and I know I can't. Yeah. Not even casually.
Well, and I just keep it going because I have so many things that I want to do, and it's like I don't need drinking or drugs or whatever it is
to slow me down
or take away my energy. So that's why I've continued to not drink, and that's why I will continue to for the foreseeable future. Is I have a lot of things that I want to do, and there's just not enough time. So why would I waste my time drinking?
Right, when you can use that energy for recovery, because you do waste a lot of time trying to recover from doing drugs. You do waste a lot of time.
Yeah, you waste time doing the drug, and then you almost every day I'd be hungover to some degree.
Yeah.
Like not throwing up or anything, but just sluggish and foggy
and then you're
brain.
and then you're not making good decisions
you're
on
not
top
being,
of that. Yeah,
not being as good as you can be. So why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, sometimes I had a conversation with another comedian where he was talking about how he's been sober for like 11 months, and he just broke his sobriety because I guess one of his friends died of he had leukemia, he had cancer.
Okay.
And he recently just died, but he didn't realize that he was also struggling with like mental health issues. and he felt really bad because he was never there as a friend for him, you know. And I say, well, you can't take that personally, because I mean, if it would have happened regardless, you know, it would have been not your involvement, you know what I mean? And that's a separate thing that goes on. But the way he internalized it, his pain was by breaking his sobriety. And then he's like, well, if I'm going to break my sobriety, I'm going to just do all the drugs that I quit.
Yeah,
so he was just like fucking doing ketamine and all. And I was like, whoa. I was like,
that's fun. Yeah.
I was like, I can't. No, I don't know. I don't know what that's like.
Well, it's funny you're talking about, like, bringing this up about, like, my friend died and I realized I should have been there. Like, that's something that, from working on material about my brother killing himself, I spun that off into a joke of everybody loves you more when you're dead.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you see on Facebook, like, oh my God, I miss my friend Brian so
Yeah,
much.
exactly.
I remember when we were young, we used to play dominoes. His mom would make us pizza. And it's like, you could have called Brian when he was strung out on heroin and said, hey, buddy, I love you and I want you to take care of yourself. So why not post about your friend, like, while he's alive?
Yeah.
Instead of, like, anyone can post about their friend when they're dead, like, oh, I miss my friend.
But,
and then they make it about themselves.
Right.
It's like, look at me, I miss my friend.
Exactly.
I'm sad. Why didn't you call your friend when he was alive and be a better friend? How about that?
Yeah, but the thing yeah, exactly. But the thing that like made me cautious about it was that his way of coping was to do the very thing that made him a bad friend.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I was like,
well, that's like self-hatred, kind of.
Yeah,
like what
I
you
was
were
like,
talking
what
about
what are you doing, dude?
Yeah,
you know,
bad.
like you're not helping yourself.
Why don't you go hang out with his mom or something?
Yeah, or why don't you go and do something healthy for yourself?
Go bring his mom a meatloaf and say, hey, you want to go for a walk?
Yeah.
I love that when somebody dies, they're like, some guy you never see is like, well, let me know if I can do anything. Like, let me know if you need anything. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to take, I'm in tremendous pain right now from, like, losing my brother, my best friend. Oh, why don't I call Bob, the neighbor I see twice a year, and say, hey, Bob, you know what? Can you go get me some sodas? Just bring something over. Just help. Let me know if you need anything. How about be assertive and help people?
Or, you know, or if sometimes it's not even that, you know.
People are crazy.
Sometimes people just, I don't know, they just, I think when someone's going through something difficult, I would be like, okay, well, how much of my level of involvement was I already there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if that even matters to some extent, you know? Because I think when you're not already there, they're not going to miss your presence.
Yeah.
You know? And then for someone just to come out of the blue, they're like, oh, I see you're going through something difficult. Can I help? It's like, well, you weren't there first of all, you know.
Yeah,
like
just leave a casserole on the.
Yeah, it's just a really weird approach.
Just leave something.
Yeah,
just bring something.
A really weird approach.
That's a really nice thing to do. Is just like make a nice casserole, leave it on the porch, and say, "From your neighbor, thinking of you."
Yeah.
Like, I know we don't talk to each other, but here's something nice I did.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
find a way to be helpful.
Yeah, it's just a really strange.
Death is strange.
It is, and I think we don't know how to deal with it.
And everybody knows it's coming. That's the thing.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know how to deal with it because I think we don't understand it, and obviously we don't understand it because nobody came out of it.
some drunk guy, when I was doing like my comedy set about like my brother killing himself, whatever. I did like 7 minutes on it, maybe longer because I did an hour. So yeah, I probably did about 10 minutes on death, and he came up to me crying after.
Oh no.
He came up to me like kind of like yelling at me drunk. I was just like, you don't talk about death. My dad just died. And this guy was like 65 years old. It's like, dude, your dad was what, 85 years old? And you're going to come like yelling at me drunk because your dad died so I can't talk about death? Like, your dad was supposed to die. He was 85 years old. Like, you should have been ready for that. Like, I'm talking about my brother killing himself when he was 20 years old. That's a big difference. Like, so everybody get ready for people you love to die, okay? It's going to happen. Especially when they get old.
Speaking of death, this has brought the end of this episode.
It's the death of the.
This is the death of the. No, this is not the death. This is only the beginning.
I like to end my sets on like I bring the room up,
and then you bring it
them
down.
way down,
yeah.
and be like, good luck to the next guy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Cory, for doing this. I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And it's gonna be okay, everybody.
Yeah, everyone regardless of what you're going through, what you experience, you guys just got to realize, it's gonna be okay. We're going to get through things that we don't understand.
Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, then it's not the end.
Yeah, it's never the end. There's always a different kind of beginning. Thank you, Cory. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you guys for listening.
Thanks.